Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to be talking about Figma Make and Supabase today. Real quick before we get started, this is being live streamed. Please be polite in the chat. And we're excited to talk to you today about the partnership we have. Let's do some quick intros first. I am Jack Michalak, and I am an engineer here at Figma Make, and I'm based in San Francisco. About Figma Make and Supabase today. Real quick before we get started, this is being live streamed. Please be polite in the chat, and we're excited to talk to you today about the partnership we have. Sorry, Tammy, can you? Sorry, there we go. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cool. Hi, my name is Tammy, and I am a product designer here at Figma, working on Make, and I'm super excited to show you all a little bit about Supabase.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Caruso. I am a solutions architect at Supabase, and the Figma team invited me today to help present about Figma Make and how it works with the Supabase platform.
Sweet. So let's talk about Figma Make real quick. So Figma Make is a prompt to app tool that lets designers and product builders build out anything you can imagine, high fidelity prototypes for what you want to build, and without any need for a technical background. It means that it's a lot faster for you to sort of figure out what kinds of things you want to build. Just, keep riffing and trying out new approaches.
And Supabase is the backend as a service that spins up a full database, set of authentication, sign in, sign up flows, as well as a ton of other functionality directly on the backend with one click. And if you are thinking there is a similar name to this, there is a Nicki Minaj song, but this one is not for, I think it's the boys with the Boomin' system, but for all developers from side projects turned startups, emerging markets to enterprise. And the really exciting part today, though, is to see how Supabase unlocks Figma Make.
Cool. And this is kind of where the magic happens. With Supabase, you can now unlock flows like adding logins, saving user data, being able to store uploaded images, files, and even more, being able to call private APIs without actually leaking or hard coding any of these secrets. So with that, I think it's time to jump into some of the examples that we can do here. I'm gonna quickly take over the share screen so y'all can see what we are looking at. And let's get started. Okay, so first off, I have obviously my make file open. And for our first demo, I kind of want to take you through the whole experience of building this app with Make and Supabase. I kind of want to do this kind of fun hot takes game where, we can like crowdsource how people really feel about some hot button topics. So I took a stab at making some designs in Figma already, just to be like, this is kind of what I want it to look like. I have gone through and just like design it exactly the way I want to. And now I can very simply just copy this design, paste it in here. I might grab both just to be like, I want to use both of these at the same time. And this is where I can now prompt it and say, make a hot takes game like these two images, where it shows the second design when someone clicks an option. Please make the percent animate in the background and make the options funny, please, because we all want funny options. Um, as that goes off and the LM continues to think about how it wants to do it, and starts writing the code, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I set up this design. To practice like some good flow and hygiene, I made sure to use auto layout all the way through, making sure that the way that I want this to flow, potentially how I want things to resize, is somewhat coded within the designs themselves. This also helps the AI better understand how you would want this to behave once it's actually built out. And you can see here, it's going to go through and um, pull in all of the design stuff that I have built and write out the code. It's also gone through and like made sure that it's covering the funny hot takes because that's like to me the most important part, making sure it's like hilarious. And now we can start going through. Oh, and just in time, it has gone through and made it. And there you go. The first take, cereal with water is perfectly acceptable. And I agree that this is a crime against humanity. And look, it did a pretty good job of building the thing out. It had a couple of issues here and there, and this is perfectly where we can use our prompt and edit tool, where I can say, well, this little bit is like off. I don't really know if I would like the fact that it's like cut off. I can then use my prompt and edit tool and say, this is overflowing. Can you make sure it is properly cut off by the card? And then watch it go off and make the little tiny changes that you want to do. And then we can keep going. As it goes, I'm going to keep playing this because it's kind of fun. Socks with sandals are the ultimate comfort combo. Oh, that's now going through and actually making those changes. And let's see. Oh, okay. I think it improved a little bit, but I think we can like keep going from here. So as you can see up until now, all this data is kind of uh, like mocked up. And so this is where we think Supabase fits right in. I can ask the LLM to say, can you add a database that will save the user's votes, please, and let it go off. And at this point, it's thinking through about like what I've asked for, and you'll understand that maybe this is the right point for me to now connect to Supabase. And then we get a little bit of a UI that helps you connect this up. I will press connect. And luckily, we have a Supabase account already set up that I will then authorize. And then once it's ready to go, I can take back to Figma, at which point we can start actually creating the right project for this. So if I set up a project, I have a bunch of projects already set up, but maybe I want to create a brand new one. And here I can set up the project name, make sure I have a good database, and like just let it keep going. And as it starts running, Chris, this is where I'd love to learn a little bit more about what's happening in the back end here. So tell us more.
Yes, absolutely. So as Tammy mentioned, when you link to Supabase, you create a project, which as previously mentioned, gives you a whole database. And so that is a Postgres database built with tables and columns that you can query. When Tammy created a new project, she selected the region. We have databases around the world that are fully able to scale up and down as required. And what's really cool here is with just the prompt, as you maybe saw in the AI reasoning, is that they're actually going to store the votes as you participate in the database. And then in real time, it'll calculate the percentages based on real responses. And so previously, there was just kind of the fabricated numbers as part of the demo. But now, hopefully, fingers crossed, we will actually start to see real numbers be insert into the database and queried back with just a prompt, no having to deal with a database driver, if you will, no setting up multiple steps like in AWS. All of this was nearly instantaneous and hopefully will be done in just a moment.
Yeah. And you can see the AI is now also just making sure it's writing all the code it needs to be able to connect to the back end, and setting it all up. So everything should just work out of the box. And I'm just going to keep playing it as I wait. Okay, I think it's ready to go. Let's see how it works. Okay. So, okay, let's get started with the first one. Water is just unflavored milk. It has updated a little bit of the version. Let me, oh, did I refresh? Oh, we have to, did we publish this already? I don't think so. This might be, it might not have the right data. Um, I'm gonna ask it to see if I can like make sure it was correct because I don't know if that those numbers are right. Can you make sure the numbers match the real database data and see how it goes. Yeah, it might have looked like it hadn't properly counted the votes yet. Off we go. Let's try that again. Ooh, this, I think it seems like it's collecting all of that data, so I'm going to try and tweak it again. The data should be for each card and individual question, please. Let's keep trying. Ooh, let's see. Can you make sure it is collecting the right data from the real votes that are stored in the database as the user's press options. Let's see if that helps. So it looks like it has found the issue that went into this. Let's see how it fixes it.
I think what's nice about this iterative approach is, sometimes LLMs aren't able to get the full context or aren't sure where the error are. And of course, as we're iterating, maybe we didn't write the full code stack as we saw here, but just using natural language, you can communicate with Figma Make, which then can communicate with the database to hopefully find the right tables to write queries to query from. And so fingers crossed that it works, but it's nice that we can go through it in this approach versus maybe having to debug code as there's already 10 files for the next hour.
Yeah. Oh, and ooh, I'm not sure if this is updating correctly. Added the comprehensive logging to make sure it's there. Let's make sure that can you make sure the values are reset? Sorry, the values show the real database numbers, please. Okay. There is probably a good chance that the database stored some of the placeholder values to begin with. So I'm going to try and see if we can reset some of those values um, to begin with and then have it start at 0.
Tammy, I was also going to add that there's maybe a chance that it's using still kind of the dummy data as you saw, mostly because there are no values in the database, perhaps.
Mhm.
And so functionally, maybe it's just trying to replace those and maybe prompting it to say if there's 0 votes returned, it's okay to return 0 since technically you're the first user. And maybe once we share it out, we'll start to get more participation, but we'll see.
Okay, let's try that. Let's try that out. So can you ensure you are query the database for the results of each question? And if none exists, can you show 0? Only show results for answers that have existing answers. And let's see where that goes. And this is also really fun for me because you kind of get to play back and forth and see what little tweaks you can make while you are designing or working on this to be like, oh, how can I make this better? How can I make this improve? It's a lot of fun, like just trying to debug it and seeing like, oh, what went wrong? What areas can we, make this better? I don't know, Jack, if you have any like tips or just in general, like how to kind of help with the AI and when it's like when you're trying to figure out how to debug things.
So I've definitely felt in my experience, it makes sense to sort of think through the plan that you want to get to and break it up into smaller pieces. When I'm building something with Supabase, I'll often first just directly ask it to connect to Supabase, get that first step done. Then I'll explain, oh, I want you to store this in the database, and it'll start storing the values. Then I'll say, I want you to like start fetching those values for this purpose. And I think guiding it along like that means that you can have a better success rate for each step along the way. Um, and another thing that can be really helpful, and I think I first saw Tom talk about this, was suggesting to the AI to add debug logs. So if something's not working, you can say, okay, this isn't working how I want it to, and we're sort of getting stuck in a loop here. Like, how about you add some debug logs so that we can have all the information you need, whatever you print to the console, I will copy and paste and show to you.
Mhm.
And then the AI will go ahead and add all these logs and you can copy and paste it. And I've definitely had a bit more success going through that technique. Specifically, it's a good way to get unstuck, I think. Hey, those numbers look good.
Okay, I think we finally got back on track. And so now the AI has hopefully gone through and done it properly. And now when I'm submitting my votes, you can see, okay, now the votes are coming in. But obviously, the most exciting and fun part about this is seeing everybody else's hot takes. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And then we are going to probably share this in the chat and see what you all think. And so I've gone up here, pressed publish at the top right. And now we're waiting for this thing to publish. And then we can kind of go for that. Um, and so if y'all have access to that link, I'm going to refresh my demo here and see what people vote for as we go through. Okay, so let's see if I can see if some of the votes are already coming in. I think that one's me.
Yeah, I don't think we have people voting yet. I know there's definitely a bit of a lag to the stuff going out on the live streams. So let's give people a couple of minutes and
Okay.
or maybe, 45 seconds and then we can check in.
Yeah, I'm too excited. I get like, okay, everyone go immediately and start voting right now.
Okay, well, I mean, for this one, I think we need to discuss. This is a crime against breakfast. That is quite clear.
I
I am not
agree.
going to take any other opinions here.
I mean, like, what if you're hungry, but then there's no milk? What are you gonna do?
I already cannot express how disappointed I am when I have to fall back to almond milk. So water would just be a bridge too far.
Okay. I agree with you. I've changed my mind. Let's just say it's a crime. Oh, there we go. Now we're starting to see the numbers come in. I guess most people also believe it is a crime against breakfast. Next one. Socks with sandals are the ultimate comfort combo. Um, I feel like as a designer, I disagree. My eyes are bleeding just thinking about it, so I'm gonna go, no, thank you. Um, and so you can start seeing like, oh, some of y'all feel like this fashion is temporary, comfort is eternal. Fair, valid, I accept that. But as you can see, some of these votes are now coming in, they're live. Um, Pineapple belongs on pizza. Absolutely, it is my favorite. I will not be taking questions. And now you can see some of the votes that are coming in live. That was really fun. I've been playing with this a lot. It'd be so cool to just keep doing this over and over again. All right, that was
Cool.
it for demo number one.
Awesome. So I will start sharing my screen again. And we're going to talk through a couple of additional demos. This first one, so for these next two demos, we're not going to be updating things live. We've pre-baked them just to save time, but we're going to talk about some more things that you can do with Supabase. So for this first one of the, big requests we get from customers specifically is that they want to be able to prototype LLM-based applications. And that is absolutely something you can do in Figma Make and something you can take to the next level with the Supabase integration. Um, Specifically in the context of, building an app that uses LLM access, you need to have an API key to be able to call the LLM. And you don't want people getting access to your API key, or they're going to waste a lot of your money. So Supabase can hold on to that API key for you and keep it secret. So you can see in this initial message, I was saying I wanted to build an app which uses an LLM to build web apps. I do want to say very briefly, the reason I wanted to show this is because at Figma Make, we often prototype the things that we want to build in Figma Make ourselves. It's great experience using the tool and provides a lot of value for us. So I described, basically what I wanted it to build. And then here at the end here, I said, we're going to be accessing Claude Anthropic's LLM for handling these requests. So please go ahead and store a secret in Supabase. And so we start off with that, and you'll see in the Figma experience, it goes and thinks a little bit. We connected to Supabase here, and then you can see we have stored our Anthropic API key here. Do you want to hop in and talk about secret storage real quick, Chris?
Absolutely. As Jack mentioned, there's a lot of cases where you're building applications, even with LLMs, that you'd like to integrate with other software, right? Whether it's OpenAI, Anthropic, maybe some sort of search engine tool, and you need a secure way to store your secret keys. Otherwise, you'll get billed against it. It could be abused, etc. And so, of course, you do not want to store it on the front end. That is extremely insecure and something we'll talk about a little bit more later. Supabase natively offers something that we call Vault, and it is a secure storage of secrets that is separate from any other project. So it is completely secure in our own infrastructure, which I'll kind of digress from. That being said, with just a prompt inside the Figma Make platform, you're able to submit and give a key with a specific key name, as the Anthropic API key is shown here. And then in a secure way, the Figma Make platform is able to reference that key, make calls out to the API. So when you hit that publish button that Tammy did earlier, you're able to go from prototyping, designing to production without risking any of the security there, which you would if you just copy and pasted it in.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so that is the core feature we wanted here. The secret storage that helps you set up the ability to interact with this LLM. And I additionally, let me see. So the next thing was similar to the data storage. I think one big thing that you want to see right after you've got this prototype is, are people using it? Like what is the value that my customers are seeing from this thing that I've built, or my beta testers, whatever. So I explicitly asked it to start storing all of the messages sent in the database on the back end. The analytics information from this isn't something I want to directly expose to my users, but it is something that I want to have. So we're storing all those messages in the back end. I don't think there was anything else super interesting in this chat history. We made some design changes. We made some tweaks to get some little bit of better performance. But if I hop on over to the Supabase dashboard here. This is a specific page within the Supabase dashboard. You can see these are some test messages from much earlier, that we have all the messages that were being sent. And now if you want to use, perform some analytics on this data, understand how people are using it, you can really make a lot of progress here and understand how things are being used. Chris, do you want to talk briefly about how we might utilize this data to better understand?
Absolutely. As you can see here, this is what we call our table editor. It's kind of on the left-hand side. Databases can be confusing, especially if you're coming from a no-code history or a low-code. And so we want to create a kind of Google Sheets or Excel style interface here. And so you're able to see the data very clearly. You're able to do some kind of basic filtering and sorting, which is kind of right under the table name in the center left of the screen if you want to do some basic queries there. There also is a built-in AI assistant, because why not, that allows you to write some pretty phenomenal metrics and queries. And so you can even ask it to say, what is the most common role of the values here? Or what is the most common type of content or color? And it can help either create those queries and display graphics and metrics around that without ever having to write any SQL, which at the end of the day it is. And so as much as there is simplicity, hopefully here, and it's not overwhelming, there's also a lot of depth, and I'm happy to go a little bit deeper at the end during the Q&A session.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. I do want to clarify to anybody who's not a developer. I am a developer. I know for some people this is maybe a little bit overwhelming. This is not something that you have to engage with when you're using Supabase in combination with Figma Make. But it is something that, in the right circumstances, really can provide a lot of value. So with that, let's move on to our final example. You may have heard of something called Earworm. It's I think we demoed it at Config originally. It's a really fun music making application, little digital groove box. And I'm really excited about this because it shows how you can take your makes to the next level with integration with Supabase. This is something that was originally designed without any connectivity, any backend anticipated. And so you can see we've had, I think I'm the fourth person to modify this file now. We've had Peter, we've had Nika, we've had Holly, all contributing to this, making changes, making it what it is today. And most recently, I decided, you know what, the UI is great. What this is missing is the ability to like sign in and have your songs and then share them with people. So specifically, I started out saying like we need some authentication, right? Supabase has OAuth support. Like let's make sure that users have to sign in. And then for this demo, I decided to tell it to prefer email and password. Email and password will work right out of the box. There's a small amount of setup if you want to have some other auth options, but for this quick demo, I wanted to do that. I'm gonna sign in real quick, and let me get this out of the way. It's gonna keep showing up, unfortunately, but I will. That will be okay. So now here we're signed in. This is my account, and I actually don't know. I don't know whether my computer's audio will go out on the live stream or not. No? Okay, that is okay. This is just a pattern to everybody watching. Um, so this is the core Earworm Studio experience. We've added that sign in. Chris, do you want to talk about OAuth real quick?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about authentication. As anyone who's ever built an application or worked on one know, that's kind of a requirement, step one almost, after you have the initial idea. With the Supabase integration to Figma Make, you're able to, with just a prompt, allow users to sign in or up with email password, handle forgot password, user management, etc. And then on top of that, as Jack mentioned, you can set up social authentication with Facebook, LinkedIn, or SSO single sign-on for your more enterprise products, whether that's via Google, via Azure, etc. And on top of that, once you have the sign-in process, you can put access controls in place. So if I'm trying to destroy Jack's beautiful piece of earworm artwork here, he can put controls in place that blocks me and allows me to see it and play it, but not completely ruin the musicality that he has.
Awesome. Thank you. So from here, what I really wanted was the ability to share these out. And so it didn't take much more to get to that. Yeah, I had one request, and then there were a couple of small errors that I asked it to fix. So basically, I said, make sure these songs are stored in the database, and then change the UI so that we can extract an ID and paste an ID for sharing the song. So, right up here, I have the ability to save this existing song. Sorry, I wish I'd blocked 1Password before this. And so we have this ID, and that song is now saved. If I change this to be something else and paste this ID back in, it goes back to the state that it was before. And this is just connecting to the database and loading all of those values. So I can, for example, send this song to somebody else, and they will be able to hear the exact same thing that I created here. I think that is most of the stuff that we wanted to talk about in the context of this example. So let me switch back to the slides. All right. I think we have Q&A now. What questions do we have?
I think we have one from Swanta on X. So after using Figma Make to create UI, can you switch back to design mode and edit? So right now we are actually working on that, but we don't actually have timelines to share. In the meantime, you can use the point and prompt tool to select an element and then make UI changes or prompt it to be better. Um, there's there's one question about Make and Supabase integration and noticing that sometimes it gets stuck or unresponsive. Could this be an issue in the future? Thoughts on that, Jack?
Um, I guess it's not immediately obvious to me what is getting stuck and unresponsive. Maybe they're saying make is taking a while to respond. Definitely, if you're asking for a pretty significant app, it can take a long time to write out all the code that is needed to make everything functional. It can also spend quite a bit of time thinking before it's able to make progress. Um, I would say if you're, spending more than a minute waiting for something, I would encourage you to reach out to support. That doesn't sound like the experience we would expect. Um, Someone asks, could we make an app with these features with as little human input as possible? Um, Yeah, I think definitely Figma Make is intended to support building out these experiences without requiring as much human support. Fundamentally, you still need somebody to, have the vision, like have the input of what is going to be built. But this definitely opens a lot of opportunities.
For what it's worth, I actually think the fun part is just me being able to sit there and tell it what to do and with as much detail as I want to. And I think we could definitely get to a future where it can do that, but like what's the fun in that? Like the joy is being able to create something with our own thoughts and our own mind and like being able to direct the things that we make.
Yeah, and you're definitely able to riff at an unprecedented speed at this point. What I was originally most excited about in the context of Make is the ability to prototype at the interaction layer. I think, Figma has a long history of allowing people to prototype static designs. And being able to very quickly test out new ways of interacting with your prototypes is really a big unlock from a lot of the customers I've talked to. Cool. Yeah, sorry, catching up on the chat here.
It looks like we have a question on making sure more about being able to use your own custom domains. I think we already do support that. So when you go to publish it, there should be a setting for you to connect your own domain, and you can follow the flow for that.
Yeah, there will definitely be a help center article about that. Can I store secrets for other services? Yeah. The secret storage is a generic secret storage service. So in this example, um, we used Anthropic to make requests to Claude for building this out. But absolutely any service that has an API key, you can store that in Supabase secret storage um, for connecting with that service.
Um, Here's one. Make sometimes changes things that you don't want it to change. We often have to tell it, do not change anything except for XYZ. Any fixes coming for that? We're definitely working on stuff, but obviously, like we're going through like there's no clear timelines on that yet. That being said, some of the things that I like to do to deal with this is asking the LLM to just chunk up the things that it makes into separate files, into separate areas, so there's a less likely chance that it's going to touch everything within a single file. So making sure your important pieces are individually, moved into its own areas will limit how likely it is to change lots of other things.
So I think there's one interesting question here. Will it work normally in other languages? Um, you should expect this to work reasonably well in pretty much any human language that has like a written form. We will only be officially supporting languages that, Figma generally supports for all of its products. Um, but just as a side effect of the way that it's built, this will work reasonably well in pretty much any language.
Another one here is, can I bring my design file into Supabase to prototype it? You can bring your designs themselves, so like the frames that you can copy and paste. That will help you. That will help give Make a starting point that you can then build your prototype on. You can continue to bring in other designs as you're working through and chatting with it. So if you have one design, you can bring in another design at a later point while you're prompting to say, okay, now add this screen or this screen, so that it can like iteratively build out the full prototype that you're looking for. Oh, there's a good question maybe for Chris. What is the lifespan of these database back prototypes? How long do they stick around for?
Yeah, that is a phenomenal question. So when you create a Supabase connection through the Figma Make platform, you get your own project on our free plan, which I'd like to think is quite good. You get all the functionality that is included with the other paid plans. You get, I believe it is 5 days, give or take, maybe it's 3 to 6 days of unused projects before they're paused. So if it's not accessed in any way for a week, it does get paused because we kind of pay for that on the other side. That being said, as soon as you access it again, it'll spin the project back up. So it is auto pause after a couple days. It comes back up if you use it. And thank you for Supabase question. I appreciate that.
So, Chris, are there any implications to a Supabase project being paused?
Yeah, a really good question. If you build a make, say you publish it like this game and it doesn't get used for a week or so, and then you share it with your friends on your next weekend because you're sharing apps on a Friday afternoon, then what could happen is that the database is not be able to get queried, and you'd have to go to the Supabase dashboard and just click a little button to resume project. So it wouldn't add an extra step. Be wary if you've come back after a week or so, but in the long term, there shouldn't be any issues of restarting a paused project.
Okay, awesome.
I'm seeing another question about can I download and run the project locally? And I think we can. In the code view of Make, there is a button for you to download your code.
Yes. So that is functionality that we've had for a little while now, and we're aware of some feedback related to it. Stay tuned for some exciting updates.
So we're seeing a lot of questions around design system integration. We definitely have a lot more coming soon here, but nothing specific to share quite yet.
I do see a question regarding limits of Supabase and Figma on request size, concurrency, etc. And so maybe Jack, afterwards, I can let you touch on the Figma side. On the Supabase side, it is just a Postgres database. And so I believe it's 500 kilobytes, but I'd have to get back to you on the total request size. Of course, as is good heuristics, having small requests at volume is better than extremely large requests. That being said, if you were doing something like an object store to upload an image, you can go up to 500 gigabytes on an image size with partial uploads. If it's data inside the database, whether that's information about the votes for the game or the JSON that Jack showed us for the musical app, then there should be no concerns there. In terms of concurrency, that's a pretty specific topic. The high level is that it is one computer, one database instance that you get. And so you can, with all Postgres databases, make requests in parallel and it'll handle to make sure that the source of truth stays linear. So there's no problem there. But if there is any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. I'm happy to give my email and I would be happy to nerd out about it for a while with you.
Great. Yeah. And just to follow up on the Figma aspects of that, I don't think there's really too many constraints that we place on this. This is a make that runs in your browser. So basically the constraints will be whatever the browser imposes upon it from Figma's side. Yeah. Okay, we got one question about whether Supabase functionality is available today in Make, and it absolutely is. We launched a couple days ago, so please try it out and let us know what you build.
I see one regarding how Supabase syncs context or content rather within Figma components. You gave examples of text layers, image files, etc. I will not speak to the Figma side, but when you store with Supabase, you can think about it more as storing your user data, right? So if someone enters their votes to the chat app or creates a web form for a shopping list or a to-do app, that's the data that's stored in Supabase. The Supabase database doesn't actually host any of the Figma specific design elements, i.e. the text layers, the image fills, etc. Jack, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, but that is not where the Supabase part fits in, more so the end user data.
I don't think we have too much to say on that topic. I did want to shout out one of my favorite soup-based features, which we de actually didn't demo today, which is the like real-time functionality of Supabase. I have built a lot of really fun games based on this. You can, live or like real-time update players' locations and scores, things like that. I also built a like online painting canvas where people can collaborate on building a picture together. Lots of really fun stuff. It's not quite as um, the things I've built haven't been as focused on like business value, but they've been a lot of really fun things, and honestly, they're the ones I've enjoyed the most. Let's see.
Jack, did you see the one by chance on the stack? Obviously, I'm happy to talk about the back end, but if you want to talk about the default stack of what Figma Make creates.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. I had skipped it because I didn't quite understand it, but it makes more sense in that context. Yeah, on the front end, we are primarily building React apps. We have like we will typically include shad CN components for the default, but the make is not forced to use those. You can add additional constraints. Um, and other interesting aspects, besides React, it's TypeScript, which helps a lot. Um, and then there's a few components that are Figma specific that we use, but when you do download the code, we have a sort of eject functionality for that.
See, there was one or two Supabase related questions. One regarding, I'm going to ping pong a little bit here about maybe projects that you can have. I will say that with Supabase on the free plan, you get 2 free projects. From there, the next plan is 20 bucks a month, 25 maybe, and you can get unlimited projects from there. And so hopefully it's enough to get you started. And hopefully I believe that the cost isn't prohibitive if you want to have 5, 10, 20 projects from there. Once again, I'm happy to speak more about it offline. And then I think there was maybe one more Supabase question. Yeah, there was a good one. For designers leveraging the Figma Make and Supabase integration, how can we best utilize seamless backend capabilities, e.g. real-time data authentication and storage? What a phenomenal question. Just like we use some of the features today, authentication and the database, you should be able to prompt the Figma Make agent to design it for you. You can say, I want to use real time within Supabase. I want to stream changes to this table or this view within the front end. I want a button that allows me to drag and drop a file to upload, and it should configure it on the back end. It'll make use of the different products within Supabase, whether that's object or image storage, whether that's real time, as you said, authentication. And hopefully you should be able to just prompt via natural language and have the functionality come up without ever having to write the code. And if it does have issues, then you can use the iterative approach that we saw in the first demo to kind of work towards that solution. I see more Supabase questions, so I'm going to roll with it until you tell me to not. One more question was regarding connecting APIs that are stored in Supabase. How easy is it to fetch the APIs to Figma Make, and how secure is Make when handling the APIs? Another really phenomenal question. One part of Supabase that hopefully makes it work well with Make is that when you create a database and you have a table per se, we automatically generate data APIs, we call them. And that allows you to directly call them from the client side. And so hopefully when you prompt Figma Make, it'll make use of those APIs. It is just part of the JavaScript or TypeScript software development kit, or SDK, that we have. And so you're able to directly call it from the client side. A good call out you had is how secure it is. If you use keys correctly, as Jack kind of showed, and store them in Vault and don't put any public or private keys on the client side, you'll be able to query the database securely and the APIs. So it can get a little bit complex as you get into the nitty-gritty detail, but similar to the other features, you should be able to get started with just a prompt and go from there.
Awesome. I think that's about as much as we have time for. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Was there anything else, Tammy or Chris, you wanted to say real quick before we wrap?
Just thank you all so much. And we're so excited to see what you make and all the cool stuff that y'all come up with. I'm always so impressed about when you design this kind of stuff and then you see what people actually come up with it. It's just like mind blowing, the things that everyone is able to do and create and how you can like really push it to the limit. And so please use it, give feedback, tell us more. And I'm just excited to see what you'll make.
Sweet. Thank you all for joining. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us today. And I hope you all have a good